So here's a student I've been working now for about 6 or 7 months, and this is going to be a pretty in-depth analysis before we get into some of the drills and areas that I've worked on his swing over the past months. So you can see a nice progression that we've made during that time. So here's his original swing, face on and down the line view, as you can see. And what I've just drawn here is some lines for reference. So when I do go over some of the key areas that we've worked on, it's going to be very easy to pinpoint those areas. So starting out, the things that I noticed about his ball flight was he tends to have a fairly strong draw, was even hitting some duck hooks with his longer clubs, and really struggling to get consistent strike on the ball. He has great speed coming from a sporting background, but just really struggled to organise his club face consistently back at impact. So this video is going to really be about improving the rolling of the golf club, which we're going to see here from the down the line view as I just kind of play this through a few times, and look at a couple of the other areas that we'd also helped him with to kind of balance out his body movements. So my general look my general analysis when I look at his posture is it's very acute as far as his kind of S posture that we see here. I'm just kind of exaggerating those lines, but we see quite a curve there. So I wanted to take some of that stress out of the lower back by really switching on his abs and drawing his belly in a little bit. To me, he's got far too much arch in his back. And on the left screen there, although I generally liked his balance points, I felt that the grip position here could make it hard work for him, being a little bit on the weak side. Weak meaning that the V's formed by his thumb and forefinger, if we kind of pan in a little bit closer, are pretty much going straight towards his chin in this kind of fashion here. Again, in this case, tending to leave the club face more open than what we want and struggling with club face control. So let's have a look here as we move through his backswing. So the thing I noticed really early here from P1 to P2, which is just really set up to where the club heads parallel to the ground here, is the club gets rolled inside and progressively gets more and more open. Now, a good checkpoint for this as we move through the backswing would be that we can't really see the club face towards the camera. That would be about 90, and our goal is to get the club face looking somewhere in this position here, with the club being a little bit more upright. But that would be a good checkpoint there as he's moving kind of halfway through the backswing. And I'm just going to move him all the way to the top there. As we look from face on, we see pretty good rotations, and by that I'm just looking at how much his hips and his upper body's rotating. In fact, for me, he's over-rotated, and he has a little bit of a move off the ball, which is probably predicated more from the fact that he kind of rolls the club inside. So we can see he kind of moves down and across, and as he continues to rotate, he kind of gets into a fairly centered position. But for me, it's a little bit overdone, and I'm always curious when I see a backswing like this, how well is he able to time the downswing? Now, this particular shot was a complete mishit. We see the shaft position coming in quite nice. For me, again, the face is way too open, and he's going to have a hard time screwing this up consistently. Now, we can start to see, even though the face is quite open halfway down, he is starting to screw it up. He is starting to turn the wrist down. So by the time he gets into his delivery position, he's not in too bad a shape, although he does strike this one quite solidly off the heel. And you can see a lot of the rolling that occurs in order for him to screw up the face. So for me, that's a very timing-based downswing move. Not that it can't be done consistently, but in his case, as I'm watching him hit a number of golf balls, I didn't really see the consistency of strike that I would expect at the level that he's looking to move towards. So on the left screen, as we move through the downswing, and I'm just going to draw a line up the ball just for reference, so we can kind of see body movement, and I'll also draw one line up the left heel so we can just see how much his lead side is moving forward and around and potentially upwards. So as he starts down here, we see a fairly aggressive lateral shift. We see the lower body staying fairly closed off here, which makes sense because being open with the body with an open face is a pretty scary move. And as things start to slow down body-wise here, you see that club turning over. Now, why I mentioned he's fairly athletic, you can see that he gets into a pretty nice impact condition, all things considered, but really has his body out of position and again struggles to time or control the club face. And as he goes through here, we start to see his lower body kind of give out, probably somewhat due to the missed strike here, and somewhat due to the fact here that he's really having to roll his right hand over his left to square the club face up. That really gets his upper body chasing aggressively forward, staying in a very flexed over position. So those are a couple of the areas that really stood out to me. There's obviously a lot of things going on there, but my initial goal was to get him to understand what the club face should be doing really in the first move of the backswing, and how to start to really quieten down how his body worked overall, certainly with his upper body, and balance out some of these movement patterns. So following this video, as I mentioned, we're going to see his before swings in real time, and following that is going to be a series of drills and kind of work through short videos that we've completed kind of over the last 6 months or so, working on his swing. We have done lots of other work on his short game and putting, but this particular series is just going to cover all of his full swing, followed by some before and afters right at the end. So this student sees me about once a month over 2 to 3 days at a time, and we generally do 1 to 2 hours per day. Same again, your shoulder down.
Very good. Yeah, I really like that backswing.
I want you to see what I'm seeing.
And mainly what I want you to see is just so you can see there's enough space there. Even this is a little bit in, but it's okay. But if it goes a little too far, that's where you hit it. So this will still give you enough room. Will still give you enough room to don't necessarily see what you're going to.
Good job. Same with the top face, same with the hip.
You feel like you're a little more on the side. It's going to be a little more stressed because I'm not going to pull you come up and out. That's kind of the idea, is you feel like just like a little bit more, and maybe you're not coming up quite as early. Yeah. So they're actually good.
Form actually really nice.